What is shakin', Internet? This is Saltz bringing you the How to Tank for Dummies Skyreach Guide. This guide will cover the Skyreach dungeon in Warlords of Draenor, focusing on tank mechanics but covering other aspects as well, including the normal and heroic versions, trash, and bosses, as well as covering the various achievements. It'll be broken up by bosses. Click on any of the annotations on the screen now to jump directly to any boss. For those of you already in dungeon and needing a quick synopsis, avoid everything during the first boss, stand in beams and avoid smashes during the second boss, simply tank the third boss and run behind the pillar for quills if on heroic, and kill the adds on the last boss. The Skyreach is the stronghold for the Arakoa Empire that is trying to purge the outcasts. You know, those guys you helped back in Spires of Iraq. The first area has some really mean trash, as there's a lot of things to look out for and interrupt. Most things will either do an interruptible single target nuke or a party-wide damage burst. The ones to watch out for are Herald of Sunrise, which will heal enemies and make healing zones, and the Solar Familiars, which will empower enemies and disorient your party. I like to mark these two types with skulls for early killing, as they're the ones that do stuff besides lots of damage. Ranjit is the first boss, and requires lots of movement. You'll basically be avoiding things the whole fight, since Ranjit has about 4 moves. The most notable one is 4 Winds, which causes a cross of wind to appear and slowly rotate around the entire room. Don't touch this, it hurts. The second is Wind Wall, which causes a line of wind to spawn and rotate in place. Don't touch this, it also hurts. The less notable but still completely avoidable move is Piercing Rush, which lets Ranjit run in a straight line, dealing damage to everyone in his path. All you have to do is step to the side whenever he starts casting this, but with everything else going on in the fight, it kind of gets hectic. Finally, he'll throw out some chakrams every so often, which are, again, avoidable. On Heroic, Ranjit will also get a laser cannon. No, seriously, a laser cannon. A laser will shoot out at random party members during the fight and leave bad pools of energy. This is exactly like the last boss if you've done him before on normal. This will require even more movement and attention to where you're standing and where you're going, cluttering the platform even further. The achievement Ready for Raiding 4 can be obtained here by avoiding everything in the fight. You don't touch wind walls, you don't touch 4 winds, you don't get hit by piercing rushes, or chakrams. You can touch the pools and still get the achievement, although I really don't recommend it. After Boss 1, you'll face a big trash pack with lots of AoE. Mostly focus the Adept of the Dawn and kill any trinkets/totems that they spawn. The next pack is a big guy that will make one party member blow up, so just have that one party member run away from the rest of the group. Now the second boss, Arachnath, is a giant golem. He's fairly simple with only 2 real moves, Smash and Burst. Smash is a frontal smash that should be sidestepped by the tank. His windup is pretty obvious. Burst will be cast regularly during the fight. Every time he casts Burst, he gets a buff that increases the damage Burst will do afterwards. So this means eventually Burst will insta-kill your entire party, acting as a soft enrage. Otherwise, the big guy doesn't really do anything. However, lasers will shoot out from the sides of the room to energize him, healing him up every second. This laser should be stopped by someone standing in it, which will damage them instead. This should be rotated around, although, from player to player, although you as a tank shouldn't have to do it, even though you can if necessary. Now on Heroic, the only difference is that there will be 2 lasers instead of 1, meaning more people need to soak the damage. Also, the boss will heal for more if the lasers do hit him, so don't let that happen. Now the next area has some birds to kill, which will fixate on random party members and deal lots of party-wide damage. Generally, just AoE them down as you can't tank them anyway. Okay, the third boss is Rukran, which is a stationary bird. No, not one made of paper, just one that doesn't move. Rukran only has 2 moves you'll have to worry about in normal, Summon Solar Flare and Piercing Armor. Piercing Armor is a tank-only mechanic, dealing damage and stacking a debuff on you to increase damage taken. Luckily, using any active mitigation will avoid or remove this debuff, so keep your active mitigation skills up, like Savage Defense, Blood Shield, Shield of the Righteous, Shuffle, or Shield Block. The other move is more problematic. Rookie will summon a Firebird from one of the various piles of ash on the platform, which will then fixate on a player. If the bird reaches that player, it'll explode, dealing lots of damage. When it dies or explodes, it'll actually summon more birds if there are piles of ash nearby. 2 more birds for each pile. The strategy here is to kite the birds to a safe spot and then kill them there. Careful though, because when they die, they'll leave a pile of ash behind, meaning if you use the same spot over and over again, they'll keep multiplying. There is one more move that you shouldn't see, Screech. The boss will only use this if no one is near him enough to do a melee attack, and it does party-wide damage. Okay, in Heroic, this fight steps up its game. Not only will the Firebirds do a ton more damage, especially if they touch somebody, but the boss will periodically use Quills every minute or so. Quills does massive damage to everyone on the platform that isn't hiding behind the giant pillar in the middle. This limits how much room you have to kite the Firebirds as well, which can cause even more problems. As the tank, be sure to get back to the boss very quickly after Quills is ending, because if the boss starts using Screech, Quills will actually do more damage, so don't let that happen. The achievement I Saw Solace is a very tough one to explain because the tooltip on it is currently broken. You need to have 5 Firebirds spawn at once, not 3 like in the tooltip. Now the only way to do this is to have Rukron cast his summon spell with 5 ash piles together. There are a lot of different strategies to do this, but I haven't gotten this one yet, so I can't say which is the best. However, the basic idea is to kill the first bird on a pile of ash to spawn 2 birds, then kill one of those birds on a pile to get 3, then group them together and kill them. Not on ash this time. Now, then, when the next bird is summoned, kill it on top of the 3 piles, and boom, you got it. Although, now you have a lot of birds to deal with very quickly. All of this has to be done while surviving through Quills. It requires a lot of coordination. Next up is the Wind Maze, which is very short and very simple. It's just a path to run through. This is very easy to make it through with no enemies that you need to deal with, but a little bit of damage from random stuff, but don't worry about that because it's pretty ignorable. At the top you'll fight some more trash, which should be tanked, just like before. The Solar Magnifier trash should be killed first, since it's similar to the Solar Familiar from the first area, and it'll daze you and energize everybody else. The Adept should be next, while killing the trinkets/totems that they drop. Afterwards, you can go left or right in the next room, both with separate trash pack. Left has a healer ad with a Solar Familiar, while right has a defense construct, which reduces damage on all the enemies by a ton, and a Solar Magnifier, which is very similar to the Solar Familiar, empowering baddies and dazing goodies. I'd focus the Familiar/Magnifier on either side, while interrupting the healer on the left and the defense construct on the right. The right also has a life pack familiar that should be prioritized since it can heal one of the ads, although this isn't really as important as everything else. All in all, there's a ton of junk to interrupt and deal with, but you've seen it all before. Finally, there's a mini-boss right before the last boss, doing very similar moves kind of to the second boss and quite a bit of damage. Now, High Sage Virix is waiting on the final platform in the dungeon. The boss himself doesn't do much other than melee attacks. He needs to be tanked, but he doesn't hit terribly hard. There are a lot of other mechanics in the fight, though, so let's start with the ones that tanks need to deal with. Virix will periodically summon construct ads. These should be tanked and killed very quickly, as they will cast shielding on the boss. This reduces the damage he'll take significantly. It can be interrupted, so it should never ever be cast, so just kill them and move on. The more significant move is Cast Down, which summons an ad that grabs a party member and slowly drags them off the platform, eventually dropping them to their death. These ads should be absolute priority, as failing to kill it in time is a guaranteed death without res for that player. They can be CC'd and knocked around, so keep that in mind. Finally, the boss will target players with lasers, which seems to be a common theme in this dungeon. The lasers will follow the target and leave bad energy zones behind, so be prepared to move. Luckily, the boss doesn't do anything himself, so the fight is pretty simple. Just don't stand in stuff and kill the ads. In Heroic, everything is exactly the same, except ads have quite a bit more health. Make sure to stun and snare the flying zealots if they're too close to dropping players. There are 2 achievements associated with Virix. First is Magnify Enhance, which is a hard-to-understand achievement. First, you'll have to have at least 1 DPS or healer jump down to the ledge you see here. There will be an inactive construct down there. To activate it, the boss has to target that player randomly with the laser. The laser will charge the construct, which you then have to kill. As of the writing of this guide, once the construct is activated, it stays activated, even if your group wipes on the boss. So it's possible to get the construct activated, wipe on the boss on purpose, then come back, kill the boss, and afterwards kill the construct. Alternatively, you can kill the construct during your first attempt on the boss and then wipe, and then come back to kill the boss. Or you could just kill the construct and the boss, although I don't know a way to get back on the main platform without dying, or having a life-gripping priest. The other achievement is Monomania, which basically requires you to defeat the boss without killing any of the constructs he summons. You'll still need to kill the zealots when they grab players, but you can't AoE, or you might kill the constructs. You'll have to continuously interrupt their shielding spell so the fight can actually be completed in time, and with multiple of them you'll probably start running out of interrupts, so it will require a good amount of DPS. Now, if you're on the legendary quest, killing the last boss in normal or heroic will let you get the required item. I hope you have enjoyed this quick guide for Dummies. Click the annotation in the top left to see more dungeon or raid guides. Please like, favorite, share, subscribe, all that jazz, and, as always, you keep it salty, Internet.
This fucker still got me.
I'm letting you die.
No!
We won't let you